Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. There's such a lot that I could talk about in terms of this subject, climate change, my experiences in dealing with fracking cases and the like, that we could be here all day, but it sounds to me like you've got a much more exciting agenda and all sorts of wonderful experiences to come. So I'm going to keep my presentation fairly short, but in the knowledge that there'll be lots of questions, perhaps about things I haven't mentioned, things, as Lorraine said, which might be burning in your minds as to questions that you'd like answered. I probably won't be able to deal with much specific, in terms of specific detail. So if the questions could be a little bit more generic, more general, so that everybody will benefit from any answers I'm able to give, I think that's probably the best thing forward. So, for example, if you've got a crack in your wall as a result of a recent Newdigate swarm earthquake, I won't be able to assess what the value of that might be if you put in a compensation claim, although who you put it into, I don't know. I'm a barrister. I've been doing the job for about just over 30 years now, and when you get to that stage, they give you the QC title. You do have to apply, but so I'm the head of Garden Court Chambers. We're a fairly radical set of barristers, and we always have been. But we're the biggest set in London. We've got about 200 barristers, and we cover a wide range of work, including environmental work, planning work, and representing protesters. So Lorraine will have worked with some of my colleagues on the INEOS injunction, Stephanie Harrison QC, Steve Simblett and others, Tim Baldwin I think possibly as well. And so and some of the people in Chambers have written a book called The Protest Handbook, which is excellent. So for anybody who wants to do a bit of protesting, a bit of direct action, that is the handbook for those who might find themselves at the wrong end of the law, as it were, when the police come to move people on or try and break up some sort of protest. Now, I do a bit of protest work, but my knowledge in that field is somewhat limited. I did give some advice, for example, thank you very much, to Friends of the Earth when they were thinking about how to challenge the INEOS injunction and slow walking and the like. So I've got a bit of knowledge about that. But my focus today really is on planning and environmental law. And I've been doing that for a very long time. But more recently focusing on things like fracking policy, applications for fracking sites and how to challenge them all the way up to the Supreme Court. And I suppose the most, I'm not sure it would be infamous, but the most well-known case that I've done in that field is for a gentleman who changed his name by depot to Mr. Frackman, just to make the point, and campaigned furiously, you might say, but certainly persistently and over a long period of time against the site up in Lancashire, the Preston New Road site, the Caudrilla site, and in that sense, the reason that he got particularly worked up about it in the first place, having been a children's entertainer up until the point where he became a full-time activist, was that his house was damaged by the earthquake, which occurred, I think, in about 2011, 2012. And he decided then to begin his journey as an activist. And I should say that he's a slightly controversial character. He won't mind me saying that, but not everybody up in Lancashire gets on with him, and I think he doesn't get on with everybody in Lancashire. So, but that's the thing. That's the thing about a whole group of people, a whole community. You're never going to get everybody agreeing with everything that everybody else says. But the general thrust of his and everybody else's objections were the same. And that was to stop Caudrilla in its tracks. And it seems as though, I'm kind of hoping that's what's happened for one reason or another up in Lancashire. They seem to be dismantling rather than bringing on further equipment. and the traffic light system, which was imposed on them when they were allowed to pursue their exploratory fracking, has really caused them enormous problems, because every time they frack, or pretty much every time they frack, there's another earthquake. And the level, the traffic light system, which effectively forces them to halt fracking, is set at we would say, a very reasonable, but Caudrilla would say, far too low level. I think it's something like 0.5 on the Richter scale, where they have to actually stop fracking and give it a breather, as it were. And there's been continual earthquakes when they were undertaking their fracking, and so the traffic light system has been very effective in preventing them from doing too much, to the extent where I think they probably decided that at this point in time it's just unviable to continue with their operations. And so no doubt they will continue to put an awful lot of pressure, as will the rest of the industry, on the government to change the level at which fracking should stop in terms of earthquake seismic event.